that we release the sense of separation. That we remember our oneness as we come into that place of stillness.
Sorry.
God can get our attention in any possible way. And I think sometimes for me it's a test to see if I'm paying attention to Spirit, to that still small voice within me. Because it doesn't come with a loudspeaker. It doesn't come with a microphone. It does not come with blaring horns. But it is indeed a still, small voice. And it is the voice of truth. Waiting for our attention, like a whisper in our soul, a sacred song in our heart. So be still now. Release whatever this day or this week has held for you. The challenges as well as the victories. Call your spirit to you now. To be present. Living, loving Spirit, we acknowledge our senses and all that we perceive through them. We give thanks for the opportunity to be upon this journey. We recognize that coming together in such things as a church service or a class or a gathering, it is for soul remembrance. To awaken our minds, our hearts, our bodies, and our souls to the truth of who we are and the purpose of this journey. And so I invite you this time to rest in a moment of silence and listen within yourself to your own heart and soul. Dear God, we give thanks. We give thanks for the gift of life and for the way showers that have come before us as living examples. So often it was said in the Bible that Jesus went apart. He went apart from the crowds, from his own disciples, from the throngs of people that followed him. He went apart to be still, to commune, knowing his oneness, so that he could model it for others. In this moment, in this day, and in the week before us, there are so many choices. And with each one, we remember. We make it a point to remember that in our choosing, we choose from a realization of truth, of love, of compassion and peace, just as these gifts that are going to the homeless are. Our thoughts, our words, and our actions speak volumes, and it is through them that we are lifted up, and as we choose, so the world is lifted as well. And for this, we are so very grateful. Thank you. Thank you, sweet Spirit, and so it is. Amen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Today's message is about the gift of zeal. So I want to begin by asking you a question. What do you call a one-legged table?
Broken table. Useless.
Useless, broken, what else? Crippled. Kind of off balance. Maybe in need of help. Remember that, I'll come back to it. Charles Fillmore had a lot to say about a lot of things. And one of them was about zeal. And in his book, The 12 Powers of Man, the title of the chapter is actually hyphenated. It is zeal hyphen enthusiasm. He states that zeal is the mighty force that incites the winds, the tides, the storms. It urges the planet on its course and spurs the ant to great exertion. To be without zeal is to be without the zest of living. Zeal and enthusiasm incite to glorious achievement in every aim and ideal that the mind conceives. Zeal is the impulse to go forward and urges all things. Without zeal, what happens?
Stagnation.
Stagnation, that's the next word, exactly in that sentence. Followed by inertia. Death would prevail throughout the universe. The person without zeal is like an engine without steam or an electric motor without a current. Energy is zeal in motion, and energy is the forerunner of every effort. So you just maybe suppose that it might be something we want to put some attention on. Just a little bit. He says, if you desire a thing, you set in motion the machinery of the universe to gain possession of it, but you must be zealous in the pursuit in order to attain the object of your desire. Desire goes before every act of your life. Did you know that? Every act. Even brushing your teeth. Anything and everything. You know, I think sometimes we get so into this sort of autopilot. We're sort of on cruise control where we're just kind of like doing it. And then what happens? You hurt your fingers, or you trip, you fall, you stumble, you whatever. And it's that wake-up call. God's saying, excuse me, honey, but would you please pay attention? Please. I love you so much. I want you to have a wonderful life, but here's the deal. You need to be present for it. It's so easy to get caught up with, one leg in the past and the other leg in the future. You haven't got a leg to stand on here and now, do you? So you're like the one-legged table, huh? Have you ever tried to drive a car with one wheel on it? It doesn't work real well, I don't think. I've never tried it. I don't think I will. Fillmore says that we cannot corrupt the inherent purity of any of God's attributes, but we can unwisely combine them in states of consciousness that bring dissatisfaction and incompleteness. What would zeal look like by itself? Because if you think back, okay, 12 powers, here's a hint. These are our 12 primary powers. We've got a whole lot more. It's an infinite, very gracious and generous universe. So we have a plethora of gifts and powers and talents. What do you suppose zeal alone would look like?
Unfocused, ineffective.
Unfocused, ineffective.
Cold.
Does the word Hitler ring a bell?
Yes, absolutely. That's the first thought I had, was the Nazi Party.
Yeah. We were watching a morning program this morning while we were eating breakfast, and it was about the concentration camps and stuff during World War II and the heinous treatment, the inhumane treatment of people. And I can't hardly stand to watch it because I'm extremely empathetic, and so it just hits me because I'm there and I'm feeling it. Now the thing of it is we can look at it and then see, okay, what's the message? Well, have any of us ever run amok with our own zealous stuff, to put it politely? Have you ever gone off half-cocked it? Ooh, you have this great idea. And it's like, ooh, I'm going to call her and we're going to go do this. And then it's like it turns to muck. You ever do that?
Yes.
So what are the options? What can you do?
Wisdom and love and discernment and
Get
Judgment.
centered. Get centered.
Get centered. There's a thought. Who'd have thought of that, huh?
Humility.
Humility. Well, somewhere I have an outline here. What Fillmore recommended, and I highly recommend, the great leaders of the world. When you think about Jesus, think about the Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, Gandhi. What I see that they all had in common, now Jesus was the quintessential in terms of using all of these 12 powers that we talk about here in Unity. But you look at the other great leaders that have graced our planet, one of the things that they all had in common is they put these four together. And it's like the four legs of a chair or a table. And it is wisdom and zeal and love and the right use of judgment. What do you get with that? It's stability, isn't it? And it's the power to move forward. When you have a dream, you have a desire, you have a goal. If you start running amok just with zeal, it doesn't take you very far, and guess what? You get tired quick. You run out of steam. And in the book, in this chapter, he uses locomotives as an example. And he said, they don't start out like a sprinter, do they? I mean, you've got tonnage, massive tonnage. And it starts out what? Just like it's in slow motion. And it starts building up steam. Now the thing of it is once they get going, they can go over 100 miles an hour. So can we. The wise choice is slowly, with the discernment, of the right use of judgment, combined with love and wisdom. When Jesus would call the disciples to go with him, well, who was the ones that he would choose most often? Do you remember? John represents love. Who else?
Peter.
Peter's faith. Simon. Zeal, and the other one, judgment. He knew how to work effectively and efficiently, and isn't that what we want to do with our energy? How many of you have so much energy you're trying to burn it off? You got too much. Yeah. Teenagers, y'all are so, I vaguely remember, when you're in your 60s, your teenage years are a very foggy memory, okay? And that's all right. The beauty of life is that we can live and learn. That is my prayer and affirmation. Because I've run amok way more many times than I even want to count. And he talks about, in particular, for spiritual workers and teachers. Anybody else have this, ooh, you have a problem, let me help you. How many spiritual leaders have you ever seen or known that are the walking wounded? Yeah. We're just hemorrhaging out stuff. But it's like, oh, I can help you with that problem. What Fillmore says is, take care of yourself first. And Jesus, at the level of consciousness that he was, what did he do? It's like, ooh, let's go here, ooh, let's go there. And the disciples are just wanting him to go all over the place. He's like, I'm going up on the mountain. I'm going to the garden. It's like later. He had that wisdom to know. Do not try to spread yourself too thin. Because in today's world, what do we get out of it? Real common catchphrase.
Burnout.
Thank you. What else? Starts with an S.
Six.
Stress. How much stuff do you hear every day? If you go on the internet and you Google it, there would be, 5 billion posts or something? Stress and burnout. And Fillmore talks about this in here. So, to stay balanced like this, it's like if I took 3 legs off of this, what? Yeah, and yet we don't understand why we end up with insomnia or ulcers. And I've had it. I was in my early 20s and I had a bleeding ulcer. Don't do that, girls. Just don't, okay? Don't go there.
I don't know what that
You
is.
don't even know what it is. You don't want to know, okay? The good news is that you're in unity and you are learning these wonderful principles and living them. I wish I had known these things earlier. Of course, at the same time, sometimes we hear these things and it just kind of, I don't know about you, but sometimes it kind of bounces off my forehead. And then maybe a few years later I come over and I see this and I read this like I've never heard it before in my life. And it was like, oh. There's a little 2-word phrase. Goes back centuries. You've probably heard it before, 1,000 times at least. Know thyself. When we're paying attention, and let's say we have a passion, we have a desire to create something. If we really know ourselves, will we recognize if we're running on one wheel? But sometimes if you're running on 2 or 3, will you notice that? If one of them's missing. then it's a finer line, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's much more subtle. And until you hit a pothole or something, you may not notice that other wheel's missing. So this is what Fillmore is talking about in here. And there was another piece that he was talking about for, let's see if I can find it. He says to grow spiritually, be careful to exercise your zeal in spiritual ways. Remember what Jesus said. God is spirit, and they that worship must worship in spirit and truth. It's easy to get caught up in whatever's popular. And I love the fact that the Fillmores looked at so many different traditions. They looked at all the religions and all the stuff. They did not have tunnel vision. And it's like, and now we're at this sort of this paradoxical crossroads where we're trying to keep stuff focused on what is unity, and yet unity was a melting pot. It's based on the Bible and Jesus, and yet it is a melting pot. So it is that sort of wavery line, isn't it? Because in truth, we are one. And it's not about keeping score about this is right, that's wrong. It's about zeroing in on the truth within us and then carrying that forward. What is for us? What is the truth for us? There's a piece that I want to share with you. It's from one of my favorite books, and it's not a unity book, but that's okay. It's called Living with Purpose and Passion, and it's by a wonderful woman named Donna Markova. She says, after realizing how much of his energy he had used to stay out of life instead of participating in it, Nobel Prize-winning poet Octavio Paz wrote a remarkable poem entitled After. The story I tell myself is that it was a response to questions his soul was asking him. In particular, how do I live in the great gift of life without hesitation, ambivalence, or reservation? How do I live without pushing life or love away? Because the poem so impassioned him with its truth, he read it to himself every morning and evening for the rest of his life as an inspiration to live wide open. The night after my own father died, with a shrug, similar questions rose to the surface of my mind on a surging tide of grief. How can I cross the abyss of despair that swallowed my father? How can I live so that my life would have meaning and so that I could bring meaning to my own life? So I've just got to ask you, what in your life, let's use, what in your life do you feel passionate about? What do you feel this surge of zeal for? What would it be? Name it out loud.
Unity and Payson.
Unity of Payson. Okay, give me something else.
Loved ones.
Loved ones. What else?
Music.
Music.
Artwork.
Artwork.
Gardening.
Gardening.
Empowering women.
Empowering women. Amen. What else?
Reserve.
Repair. Okay.
My divine nature.
Divine nature. Okay. So these things that we feel enthused about or passionate about, what are you doing about it?
Getting with it.
And how do you do that?
Get out there.
Get out there. What are you doing? Where do you start?
Meditation ideas.
Meditation, ideas. What else?
Acts of kindness.
Acts of kindness.
Put the other 3 tables on the, put the other 3 legs on the table.
Excellent. Get all 4 working together. right? What would that look like? Well, as an artist, I like to do show and tell. So I brought a show and tell piece. This is called Passion. Is it right side up? I hope. There we go. Okay.
Oh,
The flowers are in full bloom. They have come out into the passion of life. And the golden part, which is like the pollen that is being released by them, it is planting the seeds for future blossoming. Just as we create a living legacy with what we do with our own lives. When we combine our gifts of zeal and wisdom and love and judgment together and then go forward and put our desires into action in the community, in our lives, in our families' lives, in our world, we come into full bloom. And as Marianne Williamson says, as we let our light so shine, it gives others permission to do the same. This is what Jesus was doing. It's what the Fillmores were doing. It's what we're here about today. So for me, this is my zeal. It is to offer inspiration and encouragement to others so they can live their lives fully, freely, and joyously. That is my prayer for you. It is my prayer for our world. It is also my prayer for Washington. God bless them all. That's all I say. Enough said. Yeah. Clear the throat here. All right, moving on. In the Buddhist tradition, when we combine these four together, it creates something known as Satori. And Satori is that realization. It is the epiphany. It is that aha. When our zeal is in full bloom and all four of the legs come together on the chair to give us that stable foundation to see how we can make a positive difference in the world, how we can be that living light and let our light so shine that it gives others encouragement and, if necessary, permission to let theirs shine. Because isn't that why we're here? It's a whole lot more than coloring inside the lines. I've never been good at that. And I don't even try anymore. And I don't want to. It was just like, I used to feel like this, and I realized, you know, for me to try to color inside the lines of other people's preconceived ideas is like trying to swim in a straitjacket. And I'm not that good of a swimmer anyway, so I'm just not going to try it. It's not worth it. One of my favorites, Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes asked this question. What is soulful to you? What is soulful to you? Soulful. And I'd invite you to take that home with you. Hold it in prayer. Write about it. And see how it shows up. Here's another one to add to it. What thunders in your soul? When there is thunder, there is zeal. Yes? She says, look through your soul's eyes. Then find the people, places, and things that resonate. Then be quiet and listen, watch, and learn. My prayer for myself, for you, and for all of us, for our world, is simply this. For all of us to come into full bloom. To do it with all of our gifts. With zeal. And love and wisdom and the right use of judgment. With compassion. And the tender sweetness that Spirit is within each and every one of us. That is using your gift of zeal. And I thank each and every one of you for being the gift that you are in our lives.